So if you had a 2D side-scroller project started and you have something die, so it's not too far of a stretch of the imagination to see how you could change this to be like a kaboom kind of guy, right? So left and right. There could be something up top that is dropping objects that you have to kind of be underneath to catch. You want to drop babies? You want to be a fireman and catch them? Yeah, we could do that. Oh, you're with an open mouth, so you're basically a shark, and it's water that you're swimming in, and there's like a helicopter for some reason that's going back and forth, and all he's doing is just dropping babies. Like he has like an infinite baby supply. You don't even know why he's dropping them into the water. Like why is?
It could be a cruise ship, and all the people are falling out.
Yeah, unless
maybe instead of a shark, you're Satan, and these are your sacrifices.
Yes.
And they're dropping babies to you. Sacrifice.
I like that way better.
Yeah, and
Then
let's ignore the fact that like you fail if the babies fall into the water since you're a shark, right?
No way.
Yeah.
They're fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're Satan, then they just get burned alive.
Yeah.
He doesn't like wet food or something?
No. All right, so I kind of think the first thing we need to do is maybe set up our level here.
I'll start modeling Satan.
You'll start modeling Satan? All right. I think the level has these boundaries on the side, which are great, but let's get rid of all these like platforms first. So the boundaries over here are fine, but I'm just actually just gonna go in here and just clean up a little bit. Delete all these things here. Nice. In addition, this guy has a camera setup, which might work okay. We can zoom out the camera, but I kind of think it makes more sense to have the camera be fixed in a specific location that we're viewing the whole. I kind of want the camera to be like this, right? Like where I can see the whole playing field and I can move left and right. So the camera is currently defined in the character. So if you go under blueprints, the blueprints folder for your side-scroller project, and go to double-click on the My Character, he has a built-in camera. If you go to his components tab, you'll see that he has this mesh, but he also has this spring arm, which is basically just you ever see those selfie sticks that people are using? Yeah, he's got a selfie stick. Oh man, where they stick him out of their car and like driving down Vegas. You should just, next time they do that, just steal the stick. Just steal the stick and then hit it. So here's the thing, we kind of don't want this camera here, right? So let's just delete the camera. Delete the camera and delete the spring arm. Play the game. What you'll see is that you end up with the camera embedded inside the player because we haven't defined a selfie stick at all. What we want to do instead is we actually want to place a camera in the level that is where we want the view to be. So if you just drag on the top left under both, there's you can actually find the camera up here in the top left in the recent blueprint. Just drag that guy into the level. You'll get a little preview scene of what it looks like, and just spin that guy around 90 degrees around the around the hinge. You want this guy. That's the way. You want to take it off. 180. Spin around 180 degrees. Notice when you play, it still doesn't do anything. It doesn't know that this is the camera that you want to use for the game. Set it up so you can kind of see the walls too. Make sure that your view is... I'm just kind of trying to orient it. I'm looking down here in the bottom right. Just of the preview. I think it's something that seems reasonable. And the first thing we want to do is we want to set our view target to be this camera, because currently the view target is still the player and we're kind of inside his chest. So we can set up a blueprint script to change our view to be this camera. So go ahead and open up the level blueprint. And what we want to do is we're actually going to get the on begin play. And we're going to, I don't know if this thing, it used to not work. Yeah, it's still not working. we're going to get the player controller. So we have event begin play and get player controller. I want to say set view target, yeah. So get the player controller, drag a wire from blue. This is in the level blueprint, yeah. Because you need to reference the camera, so we're going to actually use the view target to get camera. So use event begin play and get the player controller. Drag a wire from get player controller and type view target, 2 words. You'll find in a function called set view target with blend. And the view target here, we want to be the camera. So you have to click the camera in the level, so make sure he's selected in the level. And then go to your level blueprint and right click, and you'll see a create reference to camera actor at the top. This is how you did the triggers and stuff too. Select this guy. How to get this guy? Make sure he's selected in the level. And then just right click, and at the top, create reference to camera actor. And make sure that your order of your wires is like this. The target is going to the player controller, and the view target is going to the camera. And we just press play. There's our dude. Did you want to see? So you have to add the get player controller first, and then it's set view target with blend. Off the drag a wire from this guy. Yeah, I kind of feel like maybe we can shorten the level a little bit. Like, this is actually much larger than I think that we want.
You would never be able to catch all the babies.
Yeah, yeah. Unless we wanted to make it really hard. So I'm actually going to pull in the little side walls here.
It really depends on how big you make the character.
Yeah, or how fast you make him too. Use your judgment. Like, this seems reasonable to me here. I pulled them in just so that they're right kind of on the sides of the side scroller template. I kind of like this guy being our catcher. Attach his head.
Those things they have that, like the background would be like a burning building, and then you'll be like 2 firemen holding.
Oh, the Game & Watch one?
It's like that Ren and Stimpy fireman.
Like
Oh, they had one that was the old Game & Watch version. They had all these different kinds of games that you could play back in the 80s.
Gotcha. Take time out. The new electronic sport with size and...
Hang on. This is not what I was thinking at all. There's one where you have the little thing that you have to people jump out and you have to bounce them into the fire truck.
And they just keep coming out of different.
Fireman catch falling. Catch falling people burning building. I did put game in here. That's kind of weird that's not showing up.
Do the gumbo fire thing.
I'm looking for a very specific game where it was this kind of thing here. This was the old Game & Watch one. Yeah, let's see what this one is. Fire, Game & Watch. Yes. This one's good. You get to see that? Yeah. Like, these are like, that's the craziest fire department. Christian, you have to set it up so we set up the camera to look like this. There's the blueprint here. Did you place a camera in the level yet, Christian? Okay. What we want to do is we kind of want to figure out what we want to do next. As I mentioned before, I like to break down a game into like the smallest pieces possible, kind of like building Lego, figuring out what pieces I want to bring up to speed. I feel like we have a guy running back and forth. He's probably good enough for now. We'll get the controls tight later. I think we need to actually get something that falls from the sky, and once we have something falling from the sky, we can have it interact with the player.
Would it be easier to maybe make like, as an example, like make a catwalk on the top and have another character that runs back and forth randomly, and then just have him drop randomly?
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, I think we can even make it simpler than that to start. Let's just make something that doesn't even move. It just is up there and just periodically create something that falls. Let's get that. Let's worry about moving behavior later, and then we can get the falling. Then we can have that thing interact with the player and have that move back. And go to your level blueprint and just right click anywhere. Interact with the stuff. And then drag a wire. Type that. So spawner. Like, a spawner is not any different from what we did for the Angry Birds one. So, blueprint first. That is going to be our robber. What do we call it? What are we actually spawning? Babies from a helicopter? What do we decide? And you're trying to catch them? We do want babies. Is that the key? We don't want to like have a food-oriented game. Nah, that's too goody two-shoes. Babies. Someone can find me a baby model and I can import it, and we'll use it. And that's what I'm trying to find me some relevant models. Okay, thanks. Yeah. So let's just make something that is like right here at the top, and just periodically creates something that falls. So I think that means that we need two blueprints. We need one for the spawner, and then we need one for the object that actually falls. So let's make two blueprints. Let's make one for, new class blueprints that are active. Let's make the first one be a spawner. So I'm going to make a BP underscore spawner. I'm not going to add anything to that. I'm just going to make the two blueprints first. And then let's make another one, which is going to be falling object. I'm going to call a falling object instead of a baby. We may want to change it other than a baby, but so I have two now. I have a spawner and I have a falling object. Okay. So the falling object is going to be a physics object. So it's just going to have a mesh and it's going to fall due to gravity. So let's just find an appropriate mesh to use as a placeholder for now. Always add a scene to your root in your blueprint. It's always just going to save you time later. So I'm just going to add a scene component first in my falling object, and then I'm going to add a static mesh next. And this guy I'm just going to use something other than a baby for now. As soon as Dustin finds me one, I will replace it. What do I want to use? Something with collision, preferably. Let's just use a horse, a donut. I like that. We can use this guy. What's that? Yeah. Just consume each one. Continuous collision detection? Yes. So for these guys, actually I showed this to Christian. I didn't show it to you, Michael. If you go to your collision properties on your physics object, make sure this checkbox is checked. Under collision, there's a little arrow that you can click. This little guy right here, this little arrow, you can click on him under collision and check this checkbox. Otherwise, he'll fall through the world and sometimes fall through you as well. Yeah, let's just drag one of these falling objects to the level, and let's just put him up top first. We're not even using our spawner. Let's just see that he falls. Cool. That's pretty good, actually. That's kind of cool. Okay, so we have something. Let's just, for now, let's try to make Kaboom. You guys can make whatever variant of a game you want. Let's make this falling object react to the player when it hits them. So we have a couple ways we can do this. Well, yeah, but we need to figure out when it actually hits the player. We can have it set up so that if it touches the player, it'll actually play an emitter. We have a couple ways. The reason why I'm saying this is because we can do something based on whether the shape hits the player, like whether I physically touch it, or we have the choice of using a trigger, which is basically a bigger box around it. It kind of depends on how lenient you want to be. Like, do you want the player to have to actually physically touch every single one of these things in order to catch it, or just kind of get near it? Yeah, so I think for the sake of gameplay, we can totally do have him touch it, but I have a feeling it's going to be better to make a trigger. So let's just add a box right off the bat, and make sure you parent the box to the static mesh, and scale up that box so it actually matches the shape of the mesh. So it gives a little bit of wiggle room for the player, so you don't have to actually touch the physical mesh in order for it to work. And another thing, I'm just going to show this box in the game because I want to see that it's rotating correctly. And I want to see it in scale compared to the player. So I'm just going to uncheck the hidden in-game checkbox for now. See where that box is. Yeah, that box seems good. Okay. So let's set up some behavior so that when it overlaps with the player, that it destroys itself. So we have this box. I'm going to rename this box instead of box 1. I'm going to call it trigger volume. And let's just go to the graph. This is not any different from any of the other trigger volumes. Click on the trigger volume in your blueprint graph, and then type overlap. So add component begin overlap here. We only want it to consider overlapping with the player, though. We don't really want it to overlap with other babies or the wall. We only care for now whether it hit the player, so we need to determine first what we actually hit. Because this donut can actually hit me, or it can hit the ground, or it can even hit like the walls if I hit it enough. So when it starts overlapping, what we're going to do is we're going to drag a wire from the other actor, and we're going to cast it to my character. And then once we've determined that we are hitting the character, we can just destroy ourselves. Just do a destroy after. And now, if you have that, when you touch the actor, it should consume. Let's. Well, I think we need to have a fail condition. So I think you need to have. Kaboom has 3 lives. If you miss 3, you lose, and then you have score. So basically, you can play it infinitely until you lose lives, and you get extra lives every so often. So I think we need to have a life limit. That's a part that we don't need right now. Let's just make this thing work. And while I'm here, while I'm already setting it up so that it destroys the actor, let's just have it play a sound too, because that's kind of a big part of it. So I'm just going to use BFXR. You guys know this tool, right? And I'm just going to use the pickup. Maybe. Kind of like that one. And I'm going to have it last a little less. That sounds like you're eating a baby, right? Okay. so what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this guy.
What was that under?
I just used an explosion, and I found one that was kind of like a meaty explosion.
Ooh, that almost sounds really easy.
And then I'm just going to drag this guy into my loop, How do you what?
Once you pick a sound, how do you...
Oh, just click export wave, the button over here.
Okay, I see.
And then once you do that, you can just drag it into your content browser. And it'll make a pickup, and then you can make a cue off of that. I'm just going to add 2 to my level, 2 of these things so I can hear more than one. Okay, so once you have the sound, you can drag it into your level and then just, you can drag it into your content browser and you can call play sound at location.
Can I, like, physically drag it from...
Yeah, physically drag it from where you exported it to in Windows into Unreal, and then it will import it as a sound. Something that I noticed, we don't have any behavior for when it hits the ground that it also blows up. We kind of need something that figures out that this donut that we have missed the player and hit the ground instead, right? Sound is an optional part. You guys all good with sounds, whether you want it? Figure out something. Yeah, we can make a split. Yeah, that's good. So let's make the behavior where it hits the ground and it does something different. So what we'll do is we are going to add a trigger volume in the level on the ground. And this trigger volume in the level is going to be used to determine that it hit the kill zone. And we can actually do another thing here. I kind of want this thing to be usable across multiple levels. Like, I don't necessarily want, if let's say I had a second level, let's say I had different levels for our version of Kaboom where you had like platforms or something like that. I kind of want to make a blueprint for the floor, the part where you miss it and it detects that it missed. But let's just make a simple trigger volume for now. I'll show you guys how to do that. So just go up in the top left and drag a box trigger into the level. And kind of line it up and scale it. Scale this box trigger up so that it covers the entire floor of... And it might be easier to actually change the dimensions here, the box extent. And just get it so that it's basically at a point that you feel like is considered you missed the object. So like, that seems pretty high enough for me. So if you look, we actually placed a trigger box here. We place a trigger box here. So when the falling object hits a trigger box, it'll, instead of being a character, it'll be a trigger box. So what we can do is, hey, on the same overlap event in the falling object, if you failed to, if it's not a character, which means you failed this cast, you can try casting again as a trigger box. So it's got to be one of the two. It's either got to be the character that you overlap with, or the trigger box that's on the ground. So I'm going to drag a wire from cast failed, and I'm going to put a new cast to a trigger box instead. Because I need to figure out whether it's the character or the floor that I hit, and in this case, this wire will fire when it's not the player, so I hit something else. Yeah, we're still going to call it destroy object, but before we get to that, we need to make sure we hook up the actor into this object here. That's got to be connected. And then you can call it destroy actor. So we can play a different sound now, because I can import that. Make a cue, and then play sound at location again, and this time it's going to be the hit ground. So if this was set up correctly, when those things hit the ground, it destroys itself. It plays a slightly different sound though. So you can kind of tell by the audio. Right? One is destroyed because it hit the trigger box, and one is destroyed because it hit the character. And now that we can tell the difference, we can do all kinds of behavior, like eventually we'll set it up so that the player will lose a life when it hits this thing. And maybe if they lost enough lives, they'll restart. You guys have this behavior set up already? Make sure that your wire for your trigger box cast, Christian, is set up to connect to here. Dejected. You guys got it? You good, Michael? Let me take a look. Did you actually fix that trigger box? Oh no, you plugged in the wrong wire.
This one.
Holy crap.
What?
You can do OBJ, you can do FBX, STL. Oh, okay. Let's do a little bit more. So in theory, if we spawn these things, we can catch them. Before we move on, though, let's do something a little bit more fun, too, because when this thing is created, I kind of want the babies eventually to be spinning, right? So right now they kind of fall they fall flat, you know? And I think it'd be cool if they didn't fall flat. So let's just apply a little bit of random rotation to them, like just basically apply a spin when they spawn. So on event begin play, in our falling object, all I have to do is I can grab this static mesh in here. I could drag it into my blueprint. And then I can set the angular velocity, set physics angular velocity, which is the rotational velocity, to some random vector. I saw something cool at GDC that I didn't know you could do, where you can modify you can fill in random parts of this velocity by just right-clicking on this input and clicking split struct pin, which will make 3 separate floats for you automatically. Do you guys see what I did there? Did this set angular velocity. Set angular velocity. And normally this thing takes a vector, so normally what we would have done is make a vector which gives us this, but we can skip this step by just clicking on this guy and saying split the struct pin. And then for each of these we can basically put a random float in range, and the angular velocity can be anywhere from, let's say, I don't know, 50 to like 150. Right click on the vector and split the struct pin. It's kind of a hard thing to say. Split struct pin. Did you find it? Wait, so do you have this? Do you have set physics angular velocity? Do you when you right click on this, do you see split struct pin? It is a vector. This thing is a vector. It takes an XYZ. But you can well, you want to apply it to a static mesh. I dragged the static mesh into the blueprint first, and then I dragged a wire from him. Right click on the angular velocity input pin, and then you should have a couple options for, like, one should be split the struct pin, which is nice and easy. I don't know, kind of pick values that work for you. I did like 50 and 150. Maybe you guys want to spin faster, so maybe 500 and 800, I don't know. Kind of just pick whatever values float your boat.
So we need 3 of those?
Yeah. Did you put on Zool? Yeah. Nice. Where is it on Zool? Nice. Now let's see what this guy looks like. It's an OBJ. That's fine. That should work.
Well, I was trying to bring it into Maya, but it wouldn't work. I don't read it.
Let's see what happens when I drag this guy into Unreal. Are there materials and textures with it too? It's fine if they're not. How many polygons is this thing? It doesn't matter, I was just curious. I was curious if it's in the realm of like 4 million or like 1,000. It's all good.
What's the output for the set physics angular velocity?
The output, you don't need to do anything with it. So I'm just going to save first before I open this guy up because it may crash. Oh, look at that guy.
It's a freaking thing.
Wow, he has a lot of materials. Holy crap. Why does he have so many material? I need He's 41,000 first. 81,000. That's awesome. Yeah, it's all good. We're going to we're gonna use this baby. Is it not at 000? It's a little. I can't tell the scale of this thing. I'm gonna put this guy into the level. I need to figure out how big this thing is. Oh my god! Holy crap! Wait a minute. Where is the baby? I don't know if I can use this one. It's kind of weird. Maybe this isn't the baby that I'm looking for. Oh. You can't open it as a collapsible thing. You need to add it. I mean, I'm dragging it into the scene right now. This is what it would do. It's all good. It's all good. I'm gonna do save now. Save from the baby. Along with all this crazy material. It's a perfect baby. It didn't even look like a baby.
Well, not as a big giant square, but it was like the baby once.
There's no artist in here that can make me a baby in 5 minutes, huh?
Not that beautiful. Like a tube for a body.
What we could do is we could slap a. Isn't there like a open game art? Yeah, this guy here.
You could just use 2D like. Oh, there's someone holding a baby.
Baby in a manger. This is baby in a manger. Oh, this is PNG.
Dropping baby Jesus down.
Anchorbot. Put a cube. And, yeah, we can always do that. Okay, we're getting lost in the woods here a little bit. We're getting lost in the woods. Okay, so you guys have this. It will be, but for now, let's just do this. What's that?
Yeah, right. We can't plug it in like that. So we have to right click on the guy. If you import it as self command, that's the baby. You have the baby's head, and the baby's head
I don't want it as a skeleton mesh though. I need it as a static mesh so it has physics. So I don't want a ragdolling baby.
That's the baby's head to one of the static.
Yeah, can you just put the baby's? Can you just export the baby's head for me as like a static mesh somehow? Can I just get one part of a baby? Like actually, if you can get me like 3 or 4 baby pieces, maybe.
Just get the sphere and elongate it, and then put the baby head up. Yeah, swaddle baby. Like it's in a swaddle thing.
Oh my god, we're all going to hell.
I have 3 kids, so I feel totally fine with this.
I have a 1-year-old too. It's we're still going to hell. It doesn't mean that doesn't justify
No, it's
our
kind of
actions.
like if you have like a make flash drives, it's the same thing. We can make games about mutilating children as long as we have.
I see. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was the thing. Okay. Right. So let's actually get with the gameplay a little bit here. You guys should all have kind of like this. Let's make a spawner that actually creates these things. Okay, let's delete these things from the level, the ones that we placed, and let's actually place a spawner instead. So double click on a spawner first. Let's go to his components and add a scene. He's going to be the root, and we're going to add a billboard as well. And then let's just place him in the level. We're just going to place him in the level, and he's going to be like that. let's just have this thing spawn one thing when the level starts. Let's have it spawn one of your falling objects when the level starts. Can you guys do that? While I look for some more appropriate meshes. So create your spawner, and I want your spawner when the level starts to create one falling object. No, I mean I don't want it visible in the game.
Well, I can't see my class either.
It should be. I mean, you don't see this? Did you place it in the level?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just really tiny. I don't know.
It should look like this in your level.
You start with, I have the baby head. Yes.
You have it? Can you export it for me? Is there a way you can like strip out all the crazy materials and stuff like? Okay, nice. Oh, it's an FBX, perfect. Oh, really? Nice. Nice. Import mesh. I don't want to import this guy as a skeletal object though. I don't want to import any materials or textures. And I want to. Yeah, I need to add 000 as well. If. Okay. All right, can you guys get the spawner up and running too? I feel like at this point it would have just been faster just to make a head with baby texture on it. Maybe I can search for infant. That is jacked up. How many polys is that? That's so wrong. That's just wrong. Wrong. Hey, baby seal. There's an idea. Yeah, we're not going to move on until everyone has the spawner set up, so it gives me time to find it. Just have it create one of those falling objects when the level starts from the spawner. Begin play up. Yes. How come every like free model site doesn't? I just need like a set of like really simple meshes. It's actually a little difficult, a little bit more time consuming to do it in 2D, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah, we could do that too. I was just hoping that there was a way to get something simple. Yeah. It's all good. Let me know when you guys are done with your spawner. Spawn actor from class. Use that. Well, it has to spawn from the spawner location. Yes. It's the spawner. Yeah, you can use a billboard or the root.
Okay. Maybe you can try the menu one.
Okay. Baby 3.
Yeah.
Cool. Actually, I'm gonna rename this guy SM_baby. Naming conventions. Naming conventions are important. Smoothing groups, that's fine. The imported mesh is very small. Most likely an issue with the units.
I made it smaller so it didn't.
Yeah, it looks better. See what this guy looks like in the level. Okay, that is like super tiny.
It's a penis.
That's
Now we've crossed the line.
now,
we're chopping.
now you're having issues with this. Like this is what's causing you to have issues. The fact that it looks like we're gonna scale it up. I'm gonna go to my components here, go here, and let's just place it with a baby, and then this guy's gonna get scale up 20x. Right? Cool. How's he sized with regard? The trigger volume's way too big, which means I need to be able to scale up just the baby.
So you have to.
This guy I want. No, it's SM_baby. Oh, the origin on this thing is kind of jacked up too, but yes.
Good job, here's Gus.
Thanks, Dustin.
Yeah.
You earn an A.
Oh, wait, now it works. Never mind.
The warning one.
No, it's saying like it's no longer here.
Was kind of weird because. So this is my baby. Let's see what these guys look like when they're falling.
Big babies.
Why aren't they colliding? Let me just make sure that this thing is still hooked up here. My trigger volume here.
No, it's floating even. Babies aren't being destroyed as they're
So there's something wrong. So the babies aren't dying.
The babies need to die. Let's just increase the size of the trigger box here a little bit. It may be that the definitely physics based. I think it's because when I changed the parent of this thing, I bet you that caused some kind of weird behavior. Let me try re-adding. Overlap. Do you guys get your spawners? I want to see your spawners. It should be spawning one thing. I kicked that baby out. Let's see what this thing is happening. Yeah, our trigger volume is not colliding with anything. Oh, because the trigger volume needs to be parented to the mesh. The problem is, because that's where the mesh is actually the thing that moves. The problem is that we scaled the baby up like a crazy amount because it needs to be. No, it's fine. We'll just work around it. So the trigger volume needs to be parented to the static mesh. So as long as you set the scale of the trigger volume before you parent it, it'll maintain it. So look at the scale of my trigger. It's at 0.1 now. So it's just 1/10 of what it should be. Now if I play. Excuse me. All right. Once you get your spawner up, you can take a break.
I still don't know what to do.
You do know what to do.
I don't know.
Use the spawn actor.
I have a spawn actor from class.
And yeah, I want you to
But
spawn it
you
when.
do randomly, right?
No, I just spawn one. That's
So
why it's just spawn one thing.
Press F and then spawn.
No, just when the level starts, just spawn one.
So event. Again, event.
Yep. Cool.
Spawn.
Yep. Then you figure out where you're gonna spawn it. So where is that?
Is it from here or is it from?
Yeah, it's from there. That's the spawn transform defines where it spawns.
So it's from.
You can make transform, or instead of making transform, I would just yeah. That's good. You don't need to do that. I think this is fun. You don't need that. Try that. See what happens. So if that works for me,
It does.
all at once. Okay. Good. You know how to do that.
Well, I was overthinking it. I was
Yes.
thinking like, how do I make it do it?
That's why like you start simple. Just make one, and then you can worry about making more.
Well, now I can't go on break because now I have to get a baby in here.
What's up with the compile step? What's the error? Oh, so go to window. What happened? Let me stop recording. Thanks for the baby.
Okay.
Make the baby for the class.